everyone. Thank you so much for joining. This is another segment of Lady Mogul Talk, and I am excited about today's guest. We have Tippi Cogen. So welcome to Lady Mogul Talk. And for those who do not know about you, please tell us a little bit about your background and why you became so passionate about helping others.
Oh my goodness. So I'm now a wellness life, but I've always had my foot in counseling even before. So I am a former Army Airborne Chaplain, and I had gone professional humanitarian, taking teams around the world to help impoverished communities with sustainable projects. And then when we got grounded for COVID season, I was like, what else can I do? And I really felt a calling to get back to the counseling, the nurturing, helping people transform. And now I am what I'm calling a closure coach. So I help people who've had past trauma get closure on some unresolved issues. And I'm just super passionate about it because I have a lot of unresolved issues too.
I think we can all relate to maybe having some unresolved, which I think is so important about the work that you do. And you also raise awareness for self-love and healing, which is so important, especially during the pandemic. So what advice do you have for individuals who might be struggling? Even though we have a vaccine, there might be hope, but we're still not quite to normal yet. So what advice do you have for them?
My biggest advice is to get a healthy support system, because like now more than ever, I know we're kind of all over Zoom calls, but to get a structure and a backbone of people who are going in the same direction you're going. And we're going to talk a lot about toxicity and getting away from negative people and negative behaviors and negative patterns. So break those patterns early. And for some, it's hard. And that's why, hey, you need a life coach to kind of guide you through that and get support, because not everything you want to share with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Now, yes, definitely. So you faced some challenges in your life. Can you share a little bit about that? And then tell us how you managed to stay so positive. I've known you for, I don't even know how many years, but you're always so positive. How have you managed to forge a path of positivity?
Oh my goodness. I'm very strong in my faith. So I am a Protestant and Christian. Obviously I was a chaplain, but that never came easy. Up until recently, I had a ton of private things that were going on medically, personally. You know, I had DNA tests that were happening in the background, and it just shattered a piece of my identity and my core. Mm-hmm. But I was reading a proverb, and it was mentioning how the best way to get over something is to let it like roll off your back. Kind of the attitude of, if, you know, like we have an encounter, someone says something to us, or we have something traumatic that happens, or we have tons of bills to pay. And it's really to have the attitude of, okay, I see it, but I'm not going to let it rule my life. And this too shall pass. Like anything apart from death is recoverable. So I just kind of learned to have the attitude of like, God's carried me this far. I'm super resilient. And, you know, we always hear complaining or worrying never adds a strand to your head or extends your life. So just take it easy. Just relax. Nothing really matters in the long run.
Right. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I used to be so hard on myself, and I've learned to give myself grace.
Gosh.
And I think, well, even as women, we tend to take on like the superhero woman complex. We feel like we have to be everything to everybody. And then sometimes we put ourselves on the back burner. Are there certain tools or tips like for self-care, or what would you suggest for the person who might be struggling to balance or prioritize?
Balance which part?
Balance or prioritize.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Set goals for sure. I have a bullet journal, which I was just working in, and I just capture 1 week at a time. I have an overall like monthly goal of where I'm going, but every week I say, what do I want to accomplish at the end of that week? And I think you first hit the nail on the head by saying, give yourself tons and tons of grace, because we can be overthinkers, we can be very critical, we can be very negative of self. And I subscribe to, I think we use the word self-care a lot, and we're like, I'm gonna go get my nails done. But in the long run, that might be good for that day, that might be good for that hour. But in the long run, self-care is just the tip of the iceberg. What I get into is more of soul care. And so that's the spiritual aspect. That's the deeper aspects of what we're talking about, of like self-forgiveness, writing off wrongs, releasing any sort of anger, or getting those unresolved issues out of the way. Because that's what's going to keep us healthy over the long run. Not getting our nails done or making sure we have our best hair on or whatever. Just keeping it real. We have layers underneath that we have to address. And those should be primary before you start working on any of the outer work. And I know tons of people who can't get motivated by a bullet journal or planning because they're just so disturbed inside. They have no motivation. So start there.
Yes, and I like how you said soul-care, because even self-care can look differently for some people, because one day, self-care might be a nap, a nice little 30-minute nap for me, or just getting the dishes done, simple things like that. But soul-care goes so much deeper to the root of like what we are experiencing. So I love that.
Yeah. And you need other people. I mean, that's part of the soul-care. You can't do that isolated.
Right. That's so true. That reminds me of when I was first going on through with my own personal battles with medical care, and I needed that soul care. I needed to go through it alone because I was hiding that condition from everyone except my mother, and she said, stop hiding. And so that what I was hiding, that really did take a toll on my positivity and everything. So we do need to address that.
Yeah, you got a spanking via email when I found out. Oh, I totally did.
Yes, and even I shared a few weeks ago in a video that I wasn't taking care of myself per se. Like, I was in the midst of the summit and everything, and I started shaking because of so much anxiety and different things. And so you shouldn't let it get to that point to take soul and everything. So thank you for sharing that. Always being transparent.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being private about some things, but especially like health matters, and being a Christian, we talk about your testimony and how that is going to be someone else's blessing. So we can't cut off our nose, right, to spite our face. We're going through that for a reason, I believe.
Yes. Now, you have such an amazing testimony, and I didn't even know all this about you until reading your bio. So you've gone from homelessness to an Army Chaplain. You've done Thrive Global and life coaching. You've pivoted. So please tell me, what was that journey like throughout your experience so far?
Oh my goodness, it wasn't easy. I'm not going to sit here and even pretend like, once you get this long snapshot of where people have been, we kind of think like, oh my God, they have it all together. That's not true whatsoever. The first one was definitely a calling. I don't know if I've ever told anybody this story, but let's back up, because yes, it came from a very tumultuous upbringing. I grew up with a very abusive mother, very neglectful. I still talk to her to this day, so no ill will there, but it was very painful, and I had no other option. So I chose to get into the military because I wanted to go to college. And oh my God, I spent about 10 years ping-ponging between jobs. I bounced out of the Army, went to the Air Force. Long story short, I got my calling to become a chaplain, and I didn't want to be a chaplain. I thought, no way. Actually, my words were, hell no. But I was about an intermediate level Christian, and so I knew enough that I needed to just let go of my will of like trying to make things happen and trust him. So when I did, it was like the most miraculous career that I had. Ended up retiring, and then I needed a break because it was such a taxing job. I mean, I went to 2 deployments. I went to Afghanistan and Iraq. I was injured in Afghanistan. I had to learn how to walk again. And by the end of all of that, I was like, I need like a break. So I knew that I wanted to go abroad and help other people. I didn't just want to sit around and be retired. And there wasn't really an outlet for working professionals to go somewhere short term. If you wanted to join the Peace Corps and be gone for a year, or there was other agencies where you could be gone 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. And I was like, I can't do that. I'm not going to go away for that long. So where there was an opportunity, I filled the gap. And so I designed Thrive just with that focus in mind, that not everybody wants to go to Vegas. Not everybody wants to sit poolside. Some people want to go and spend their 2 weeks helping other people. And so I started curating these 10 to 12-day trips going abroad. And then, like I told you, COVID happened. We had 10 trips in the 5 years that we were active, and we're just on pause. 10 trips, multiple people coming, a lot of repeat business, high on life. And then the crash came, and it's like travel halted. And I literally went into depression because I'm like, well, now what? Like, I kind of put all of my stones into this basket, and the stones were getting thrown back at me. And I'm not one for sitting around. So I said, what can I do with the skill set that I have? And this is my advice to people who are searching for their purpose. You have the ability in you already, and it's just pulling that to the surface. We have a lot of innate natural talents, and yeah, I would definitely sit down and write a list of cans, not cannots. I went harder on what you did wrong, but I would list all the things, all the skill sets that you have, and really take the time to digest it, take it in, and then you can move. But, spiritual, again, prayer is awesome, very clears out the mind. And I would isolate yourself for a time. We call it prayer and fasting, but I was noticing that I was getting very confused, and I was on social media, and I was seeing all of these influencers doing things, and people had podcasts, and I was just like, I'm not doing jack crap, I was thinking, I don't have any balance. I don't know how to, and I had to learn. Like, I was on YouTube, and I was trying to figure out, like, okay, how do I build a video? How do I do all this stuff? And if you really want to do it, you will. You'll stop making excuses. You'll wake up early. You'll figure it out. You'll get connected with other people who are talented, and just go for it. I think fear is the biggest thing. I was caught in fear to launch my coaching business. I probably had about 6 iterations this summer, and every time I popped up, people are like, what is she doing now? Like, and I literally had to write a post. It was me thinking about it. I'm like, people are probably thinking like I've lost my mind and I'm just like crying all this stuff. And I made the post to myself, but it was like, I will not let anybody determine my level of success, and I will not be shamed for trying stuff. So kind of like addressing maybe the unknown, but I really felt that I needed to stand in that ground of like, no, I don't have it figured out. I'm still figuring it out. And it's okay, It is, yeah. Sitting back and not trying anything is just as bad. So I'm going to stop talking now.
No, I was ready for you to go on, because that's amazing. People do need to hear this, because fear does often paralyze them. And I don't know how many times I pivoted last year in 2020. And it wasn't just because of the pandemic. It was just discovering, okay, I thought this idea was going to work, but I didn't like this idea. It's not working for me. Yeah. And so you just have to try until you figure out, exactly what you want. So no, you could have kept on.
That's amazing. I'm not a big fan of Gary Vee's. He's calmed down the language a lot, but he said something that was so powerful. He basically said that if you can get over what people think about you, you won't have any problems. Like, you will just, and so I really had to put my ego back and just say, you know what, I'm doing this for me, and I don't care what it looks like to anybody else. I'll figure it out. And I know me. I find success, and I don't mean like cash success or title success, but just like accomplishment success. I'll figure it out. So I took that grace and I was like, pour it on me.
And speaking of accomplishments and success, you recently started your PhD in psychology.
Oh my God.
Now, I don't know how you do, because every time someone asks me, are you going to get your PhD? I'm like, I don't know about that. So tell me, what is that experience? What motivated you to undertake this great accomplishment?
Oh my God, trial by fire. So when I went to seminary, I wasn't there to become a theologian, as they call them. Everyone would ask me, they're like, hey, so are you going to be a missionary? Are you going to be a pastor? And I was, again, hell no. I was like, I'm here for clinical psychology. I'm going to work on my PsyD. Merry Christmas. I want to be a Christian counselor and a Christian therapist. And that was it. And of course, I got my calling, and God was like, wait, you will be a counselor, but it's going to be different. And I'm so glad that I obeyed him, but I'm so glad I had the 10 years to grow and develop and go through some stuff. Mm-hmm. And this year I had went through some pretty tragic things, and I didn't get any closure from it. And I had been putting off I thought I wanted a PhD, but I kind of knew that it was just me, like, I want to get this. And when I came to a point of like not having to prove anything, not needing it because I felt insufficient, the time was right, everything was lining together, I had a rough summer, I was like, you know what? I started praying about it again and asking, is this the time? Because I feel like it's time to do this. And one thing I learned being a chaplain, and I hope we're doing this off the record. No, just kidding. Traditional counseling for me kind of gets boring because you just chat, right, chat, you get it. And when I started praying and fasting, I quickly learned that body healing kept coming to mind. Heal the body, heal the body. And I hadn't heard of that in psychology before. I'm like, does God want me to be a chiropractor? Or like, does he want me to be a therapist? I'm like, I don't think I'm smart enough for that. And I literally went to Google. And so this is like this internal check. Something's telling me body healer. And I said, okay, I'm not into new age stuff. I'm not going to do anything weird. So I went, and I still knew I loved psychology. And I literally found out that there was a concentration in what's called somatics. And it's talk therapy, but it's also getting people to be aware that we carry trauma inside of our bodies as well. And so that needs to come out, because that has a lot of, we'll call them like secondary side effects to mental health. So a lot of people will, have backaches, stomach aches, their posture's all off, they can't sleep. And it's not just stored in the mind, it's also stored in your body. So I thought, this is amazing. And you get them up through movement. You can do all different sorts of things with them, with talk therapy. And I thought, oh, this is it. This is it. I'm going to go get my PhD in this. I could do this for the rest of my life. So that's kind of how it came about. And I start in March.
Oh, wow. I love it. Well, I will keep you in my thoughts as you undertake this project. I know you're going to do great, because you have such a passion to help others. It's evident in every single thing that you do. So I have no doubt that it's going to go well. And speaking of helping others, you mentioned closure earlier, and then how you're trying to find your own closure recently as well. What advice do you have for those who are maybe suffering through, maybe they haven't found the closure that they need from past experiences, and maybe sometimes they might not get it, whether it's from another person? What healing tips do you have for them?
You should call me.
What a great time to put up in your services.
Right? And I don't say that to just self-promote, but if it could work with you doing it by yourself, it probably would have by now. But a lot of times, it's called closure for a reason. And this is the unresolved events that I address. First thing is first, we talked about soul care. We talked about going inside deep and figuring out, we're letting things roll off your back. I think that's very important, of like accepting that you're never going to get that closure. Finding forgiveness and finding peace are the first layers, right? If you're still holding that in, it's problematic. And so finding someone that can help you release that anger, that frustration, that sadness, it's a process. And I really want to destigmatize people needing help and guidance through that process. We kind of get stuck, and we continue on with this same narrative in our mind, and we go over it and we go over it, and we try to force the closure, and then we don't get it, and then we feel disrespected in that process, self-disrespected, where we're like, why did they even have to go there, And so like, let's cut out all that. Like, let's just get to the end. We don't want to go through, we go back to that guy we know we're not supposed to go back to because we think in our mind it's going to turn out the way we think it's going to turn out. And then we just lose face and we lost a lot of time and we put ourselves further back. These are things that some people can't identify that they're doing. And I am saying because I used to do these same things and I had to learn quickly that I'm repeating the same bad patterns and getting the same results.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's amazing. Well, I have to ask because I know a little bit about your story. What was life in Hawaii like? Were there like lessons that you learned because you were born in California and then you moved to Hawaii?
That's very good. Mm-hmm. Yes, and you know my story very good.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. What was my life growing up like in Hawaii?
Yes.
Amazing. Yeah, I got to Hawaii when I was 10 years old. So I had been there for the last 30 years on and off. And it was amazing. I actually just left Hawaii to come to LA to start my PhD. I wanted to get here early. But it was full of surfing, boys, cutting class, hanging out in the sun with booty shorts. It was fun. It was a really good, it's laid back. The people are nice. The weather's always nice. The scenery is amazing. Yeah, so I still call it home because it's just, that's the lifestyle that I want. And if I could make another note about knowing what you want is while you're doing all that soul care stuff and you're doing all that goal setting, it's really important to know what values align with you. And that value of living in Hawaii and having a space for clarity, peace, beautiful, that was something that was very important to me. And so sometimes you got to do the things that people think are crazy or wild, but it's in your core. And so you have to hold true to that. So if you're in a place that's toxic, a bad environment, or you have a job that you kind of have to do, it's not going to create the growth that you need because it's not a part of your natural value system. So Hawaii was very much, I always go back. I will move back at some point again because that's who I am. Yeah.
Well, I definitely need to come visit Hawaii one day. I've never been. To go, but it's on my list after COVID, whatever is going to happen with this. Now,
just get your vaccination.
Yes. Please tell our viewers how they can keep up with you because I know that a lot of us need these life coaching services and I love how you do a unique spin on it. So how can they keep up with you?
Well, you can definitely go to my website, tippicogen.com. My name is down here so you can read it and it's super simple. But I am more of like a social media girl. I don't really have any formal ways of reaching out to me. So you can follow me on social media. I'm at Tip the World on TikTok and Instagram. And so those are the best ways to kind of just get to know me a little bit more. I put some personal stuff up there. I put some professional stuff up there. And I'm always looking for new friends. And if right now is not the time for you to seek coaching, which right now for this season, I'm doing donation-based services. So it's completely up to you, but usually that closure coaching session's about $175 and it's for 2 sessions. So just to give you a little kind of sneak preview of what you'd be in for, but it's by donation now. So hit me up.
Well, thank you so much. This has been an amazing conversation. Are there any last words you wish to leave our audience before we close today's segment?
Oh my gosh, I'd like to give you a super huge thank you. And I'm so glad that you've resurfaced after some medical stuff. It sounds like we were both in a tough spot. And I really appreciate all the listeners and viewers of Lady Mogul's program. So keep it up. She's putting out great content. And again, have grace for yourself and do some soul care and soul searching.
Yes, I'm going to. You need to put that on a shirt. Soul care.
Soul care. Right? Okay, I'm gonna patent that.
Yes, immediately.
Copyright.
Thank you so much. And we will talk to you in the next Lady Mogul Talk. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks for having me.